and that being said, as you all have seen, DOM moving forward now will be working more closely with SLE. That being said, with all the new rules that we agreed upon with SLE and the complicated process for members to complete the anti-hazing form, how will you handle adoption so that Kasama as a whole does not face any repercussions for Kata season? And how will you promote members not to go through the process rather than getting adopted?
Can you repeat the question?
Sorry, I'll repeat the two questions. How will you handle adoptions so that Kasama as a whole does not face any repercussions for Kata season? And how will you promote members to go through the process rather than getting adopted?
To answer your first question, we working with SLE. I think that from this past year of having contest season, working with SLE as early as I can would be really, really helpful in seeing what they expect moving forward. I think trying to find that middle ground of what we want to see and what executive board wants to see and what they want for the COPY program to be safe and effective and fun is asking what do they want to implement and how we can influence that into our program.
How will you promote members to go through the process rather than getting adopted?
I think another thing that we also try to emphasize is to really trust the process. Getting adopted and that system is also fun in itself, but really seeing how family comes together, how community works together, really trying to take part in the program is going to give you an experience that you might not get if you get adopted.
I think when it comes to the part of the adoptions in SLE, I think it's important to emphasize the communication between DOM and whoever's adopting and getting adopted too, to make sure that everyone's still accounted for, even if they don't go through the process. And then when it comes to advertising going through the process, I think it's important to really emphasize the importance that like the connections that you're making, you might find things that are unexpected and like they're the best advice that you could get. And again, I agree with Erin with just trusting the process, because a lot of us went through the process, and just like sharing that experience means a lot, I think, when it comes to someone debating whether to be adopted or going through the process too.
So I think working with like the SLE thing, it's important to emphasize like it's important to emphasize like the responsibility that the katas would hold, and how they go through with the auditing is also like has to have intention behind it. I think that being able to talk to the katas like, as the DOM allows them to have like this sort of knowledge like going forward into it. And for the whole going through the process instead of going through adoption, experiencing it firsthand gives me a better understanding to let them know that like it's really fun. Like kata is one of my favorite things ever. Like not just in USF, but my life, because it's the whole like process that made me fall in love with the position in the first place and kata, because like, not knowing who you have, trying to guess who it is, all the kata events, it's super fun, and I feel that if I can show that passion to them, it'll give them more of a reason to go through that process rather than adoption.
Let's say hypothetically, and this happens a lot during contest seasons. Can you hear me? Okay. Let's say hypothetically during contest season, this happens a lot where someone, a kate Akate puts an Adin down and Adin puts Akate down, and they end up not getting each other. And sometimes that can cause a lot of turmoil, that can cause a lot of conversations and chaos. How would you navigate that if you were hearing whispers around you about two people not getting each other or whatever the case may be? How would you combat that? How would you have that conversation with them?
I think it's important to back your decisions, and especially when you're making so many decisions at once. It's also important to take the intention and care, knowing that you're going through the application thoroughly. You're making sure that you're being observant at events, and that you're taking the time to make sure that you're getting to know the people in the program, both as DOM and making sure that your committee is too, in order to make sure that it's the best possible pairing. And just re-emphasizing the fact that there may have been something that we saw on our end that to make those better pairings.
So obviously, like going through Kata, there's always someone you have in mind that you want. But the thing is, with being DOM and working with Kata committee, there's reasons why we make the pairings that we do. So I feel that if you are like, I guess, disappointed or like sad that you didn't get the person that you want, there is a reason that we gave you like the pairing, and just because you aren't paired with the person you put down doesn't mean you still can't be like a kata for them or another for them.
I definitely agree with what's already been said. I'd remind the Agate that there is intentionality and purpose behind this pairing. There was something that the Agate committee saw that we all discussed and talked about, and why they became a pair.
Dom is in a unique position where you're in charge of cultivating a community with many people with diverse ways of interacting. How do you cultivate a safe space for people who are outgoing while still maintaining the same space for the wallflowers as well?
I think the addition of more quiet events, like the trading card event that happened in the fall, would be more inviting to those who are a little bit quieter. Some ideas in mind would be like the book exchange, or they talk about like their day to day, just something, or like a game that could be played that's more one-on-one, would be more inclusive to those who are a little bit more of a wallflower.
In my experience, I was a wallflower too when I was a freshman, but going through like the events, like the kata events, especially like speed dating, even though I was shy, since you're kind of like, I don't want to say forced, but like you're put in a position where you have to talk to the other person, it really helps because these like conversations kind of just flow. Like it can be hard to get into, but once you like just start talking to somebody, it just keeps going. Then you go to the next person, and it kind of like fosters like these relationships and allows like connections to bloom. So I feel like having like events like that where it focuses on conversation could help a lot with that.
I definitely think mixing like the energy levels for the events that happen throughout kata season is important, because like dodgeball is not the same energy level as arts and crafts night is. And I do think that with like events that I saw past fall, with like the speed dating and then one of the Meet Me at UC5 events, there were prompts that were thoughtfully created, conversation prompts for people to use, and I think that was important on both ends to get to know each other more.
Can you guys describe your favorite kata memory and why it holds so much significance to
picked up, arts and crafts night is a memory that always sticks out in my head because it was the first time that I had gotten to talk to a kata that I had connected with during that season. And I had seen them at a lot of other events, but that was the first time I actually got to sit and talk with them. And I just remember it was very nice. We were making slime. It was very like chill and like low key, and I didn't feel any pressure to like, oh, like I need to be like more outgoing or anything, and I could just like be myself. But that's a memory that I hold in my mind a lot.
Last semester, I don't know if you know this, but I switched katas. And I remember I was at IKEA. We were eating meatballs, and I was like, I just told Como, like, I don't know if like my kuya is gonna be like active, so I was wondering if like you could be my kata. And ever since then, like, I just felt a lot more connected with her, and I'm really glad because I don't know, like, not saying that my kuya was bad, but I guess he just wasn't there that much. But now having a kata that's always present, it's really nice.
My favorite memory is when I got that follow request from Felicity. I forgot the tag name, but it was basically like Erin Nicole and Nicole's got it. And I was like, why is it double? Come to find out, I'm a twin, so that's definitely is a memory that sticks out in my mind. And my other favorite memory is reveal night and meeting Felicity for the first time. At the events, I hadn't met her prior, so I really got to get to know her when we all went to her apartment after. It was the first time I've actually been asked, like, how are you doing being here as a student? How are you feeling in this Kasama space? What can I do to be your mentor? Basically was the conversations we were having. And yeah, I really cherish that because I was already a sophomore at that point, and I hadn't already had that experience.
One major, I guess, obstacle I noticed during kata events is that for most incoming, I guess, audience that want to be picked up, they often come with friends. And so with that in mind, they often stick to their own circles. So what would be something that you guys could or plan to do to kind of, not necessarily break up those groups, but to allow them to explore new people and not stick with people who they're comfortable with?
I think a lot of heavy lifting is done during kata season, where fan lines are really established, and that's kind of group to group. So something that I'd like to see if kata season happens in the fall are more events for fan lines in the spring, where lines can talk to each other. I mean, they can always talk to each other, but it'd be an event where people are encouraged to meet new people because they've already been placed in a line.
I think that audience coming in groups together is why it's important during events to break them up. Like, there was one event where like we did a bingo before going into the rest of them, or like breaking them up into groups, even breaking up them by major sometimes, just so they are going and meeting other people. Yeah.
I think with like groups of friends, they always like kind of gravitate toward each other, and it's something that's always like hard to get past. But I think like with the kata events in next year, I think we can like put more emphasis on like actually like meeting new people. So like, for example, in like speed dating, you're always constantly talking to somebody new, and that kind of gets rid of the whole like being with your friends part of.
So, DOM is a very front-facing position, and I was just kind of like wondering for each of you, how do you plan to make yourself accessible to membership while also balancing your own like personal responsibilities like jobs and like academics?
I think the important thing is to take it little by little instead of overworking and like overloading yourself, because when you start to feel overwhelmed, your mind just runs and you can't think clearly. But even doing like the tiniest bit a day goes a long way. And I think that since we have like the Kata committee, it's also like something that we could delegate like other like workload, because we are a team, so it's something that we can definitely work through together rather than just like putting all on one person.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so because DOM is so front facing and you're definitely gonna, as DOM, you will have to be like available and accessible to membership. How do you plan on like navigating that balance between like work-life balance and like social?
I think it's definitely important to recognize your own capacity too. Working ahead and like planning ahead, like starting planning over the summer and like making sure that logistics are organized is also important so that you can stay in the moment too. Especially when you want to be fully present when you're talking to someone. And
Similar to what Jacob said, I definitely want to utilize the committee more, and delegate tasks where I feel a little bit overwhelmed. I also like the concept of almost holding an office hours on UC4 maybe, maybe during dead hour where any general member can come up and just ask questions and like kind of get to know me. And then just being more specific when we present ourselves at first gen and second gen meetings as well, so that Kasamas can feel like they can approach me and get their answers.
I've never been involved in like the planning of Kata super integral. Like I've never been on a Kata committee or been DOM. But I know what it's like to be in charge of the season. And I know what it's like to really care about a season. So what I want to ask is, what is your why? Why DOM? Why do you want it to be you? And why do you choose to continue your company?
I want to be DOM because I think there's so much beauty in how the connections made during Kata and even beyond it are made. While I was planning FAM this school year, there was something about an idea of an event and watching it come to life and watching people at that event connect with each other that I think is so special. And it's something that I love to continue doing, and especially because there are logistical parts in this role too. Like I said earlier, I think it's important to stay on top of it in order to stay in the moment for things, so then you're not worrying about last minute details and stuff like that. So I would like to be able to help our space in that way too.
For me, Kata has always been super special to me, and being part of like all three of them and seeing all the outings run and like be so happy, start jumping, like it's a feeling that you cannot replicate. It's something that is only in Kata, and it's what made me fall in love with it in the first place. I want to be DOM because that's the exact kind of feeling that I want to do. I wanna make these connections. I want to like establish relationships that you didn't even know were possible in the first place. And I just love Kata.
I keep coming back because joy is at the forefront of this community. I think this season and the program itself really is just so joyful and so happy. I want to be DOM because this space has given me the opportunity to meet new people, to get to talk to talk to people that I don't see every day, and I just want to help keep establishing those connections.
The suspense leading into Kate reveal is what makes Kate so special. What does confidentiality mean to you, and why is it important when it comes to Kate as a whole?
Captain program really only works if we are confidential about the pairings. Otherwise, it's a big spoiler. People would know who they got paired with. So it's very important to me that Captain committee members are aware of their position and know what their role is on committee.
For me, the way I think about it, it's like a Christmas gift. You see this box, like a shiny wrapper underneath the tree. You're like, what is that? You know? It's like you're so excited, you want to know what's in it, but your parents won't tell you what's in it. So you have to wait until the actual day, and when you open it, it's exactly what you want.
I think that confidentiality is important to the process as a whole for both audience and Kates, because again, every pairing is a chance for a relationship to blossom. And for those relationships, you have to give them a chance sometimes, and I wouldn't want to ruin the surprise or the Kate magic for on both ends. Because I think that's really important and vital to the program, and it's part of the experience of being in the program as a whole.